In professional wrestling, a last name can be everything. Think about names like Rhodes, Flair, or Anoa'i. They carry weight, history, and an instant connection with fans. But what happens when a famous name comes from outside the ring? From the world of blockbuster movies and magazine covers where the spotlight hits different and the criticism cuts deeper. This is the story of Arissa LeBrock, the daughter of action legend Steven Seagal and supermodel Kelly LeBrock. It's a story about fighting your way out of two massive shadows, not into the glitz of Hollywood, but into the brutal, unforgiving world of the squared circle. It's also a story that got twisted into a shocking viral rumor. But the truth is way more interesting. You might have heard the story making the rounds online. The daughter of an action hero decides to chase a dream in WWE. Then, during a secret tryout, she collapses in the middle of the ring. Her famous father, Steven Seagal, is there watching, and his reaction leaves the entire room in stunned silence. It's a tale of drama, failure, and the cold reaction of one of Hollywood's most notorious tough guys. But we decided to look past the gossip to find out what really happened. How did a devastating injury almost end Arissa LeBrock's career before it even started? And what was the real story of her comeback? It's not about one moment of collapse, but a years-long fight against the darkness that followed. The internet loves a juicy story, and the rumor about Arissa LeBrock had all the right ingredients: celebrity, drama, and failure. The story that spread through comment sections and forums paints a pretty vivid picture. It starts with Arissa, daughter of Hollywood royalty, supposedly using her name to get a private tryout with WWE officials. The stakes couldn't be higher. She's not just fighting for a contract, she's fighting to prove she's more than just a famous last name. In this made-up version of events, the pressure gets to be too much. Under the hot lights, with scouts watching her every move, something goes wrong. Arissa collapses. Not a scripted bump, but a real, terrifying medical emergency. The room goes quiet. And right in the middle of it all, the rumor places her iconic father, Steven Seagal, watching his daughter's dream fall apart. So what does he do? This is the core of the myth. He doesn't rush to her side. He doesn't call for a doctor. He just stands there, silent. That supposed silence is what made the story go viral. It's unnerving, leaving everyone to guess what it meant. Was it disappointment? Disgust? Or was he just so tough that nothing could crack his composure? It's a dramatic, heartbreaking story, and it's almost completely false. To get to the real story, you have to hit rewind and look at the journey of a woman who was never going to be defined by a single moment of failure. To really get Arissa LeBrock's journey, you have to understand the enormous shadows her parents cast. Her father, Steven Seagal, was the face of bone-crunching action movies in the late 80s and 90s. As a seventh Dan black belt in Aikido, he wasn't just an actor. He was a legitimate martial artist who brought a brutal authenticity to films like Above the Law and Under Siege. For a whole generation, he was the ultimate action hero. Her mother is Kelly LeBrock, a supermodel and actress who basically defined 80s glamour in movies like The Woman in Red and the classic Weird Science. Together, Seagal and LeBrock were a Hollywood power couple, representing two different kinds of fame. One built on pure physical dominance, the other on breathtaking beauty. Growing up with that hanging over your head creates a unique kind of pressure. Arissa said it herself, recalling how people would always say, "Oh, you're Kelly LeBrock's daughter, you're Steven Seagal's daughter." Her response was always blunt. "No, I'm me." To prove it, she first stepped into her mother's world, but did it her way, becoming a successful plus-size model for brands like Ashley Stewart. Her life was even featured on the Lifetime series Growing Up Supermodel. She was building her own brand on her own terms with a message of body positivity. But that was only one half of her DNA. That fighting spirit from her father was always there, and it was about to pull her down a path nobody saw coming, from the photo studio to the one place where your last name means nothing if you can't back it up, the wrestling ring. Jumping from modeling to pro wrestling sounds like a huge leap, But for Arissa, it was driven by a passion that was in her blood. While the world saw her as a model, she was quietly training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the toughest martial arts out there. She was training at the highly respected Paragon Jiu-Jitsu and Kickboxing Academy in California, proving this wasn't just a hobby, it was a calling. Her skills and unique story were impossible for WWE to ignore. In December 2019, she was invited to a multi-day tryout at their high-tech performance center in Orlando, Florida. This is the place where WWE tests its prospects, pushing them to their absolute limits to see who has what it takes. The news created a buzz in the wrestling world. A promoter's dream, here was the daughter of a martial arts icon and successful model who was also a legit BJJ practitioner. This was her chance to prove she belonged. She gave it everything she had, and this is where the real story separates from the rumor. There was no dramatic collapse in the ring with her father watching. The real story is almost more heartbreaking. Shortly after that grueling tryout, disaster struck. While she has kept the exact details private, Arissa suffered a severe career-threatening injury. Think about that for a second. You decide to chase this impossible dream, you push your body through the toughest test of your life, and you're right on the edge of a new career. And then, just like that, it's ripped away. Not because you weren't talented enough, but because of a catastrophic injury. This wasn't a small setback. It put her dream on hold and sent her into what she later called one of the darkest places in her life. That injury tested her in ways a wrestling match never could. It would have been easy to quit and go back to modeling. Before we get into what happened next, and the one phone call that changed her entire path, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss more deep dives into wrestling's most incredible stories. When a dream gets put on hold, it can either break you or build you back stronger. For years, it seemed like Arissa LeBrock's wrestling story was over before it began. She was in a dark place, and as she later admitted, she got comfortable there. In a moment of raw honesty, she said, "I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." The viral rumor claims Steven Seagal's defining reaction was silence. But the real reaction that shaped her future came from someone else entirely, and it wasn't silence. It was a phone call. That call was from Dustin Rhodes. If you don't know, Dustin Rhodes is wrestling royalty. The son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes, he's a master of his craft, a future Hall of Famer best known for his work in WWE as Goldust. Now, a respected veteran and coach in AEW, Dustin gets what legacy, pressure, and the grind are all about. He saw past the injury, the famous parents, and the failed tryout. He saw an athlete with a story that wasn't finished. He offered her a second chance, an invitation to move to Texas and train at his school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. That phone call was the spark Arissa needed. She accepted. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy isn't like the polished corporate WWE Performance Center. It's an old-school dojo built on hard work and respect. Here, Arissa wasn't just another face in a huge tryout. She was a student being personally mentored by a master of the craft. She went all in, working with trainers to rebuild her body and, as Dustin put it, get her ducks in a row. Under Dustin's guidance, her BJJ background became the foundation of her wrestling style. He praised her work ethic, telling reporters, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her." Then he made a bold prediction. Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock. The what he did next moment wasn't a cold stare from an action star. It was the quiet, steady work of a wrestling legend who believed in a student when she needed it most. After months of hard work and starting over, the moment of truth finally came. In March 2023, at a Rhodes Wrestling Academy showcase, Arissa LeBrock made her pro wrestling debut. This wasn't some big-budget WWE show. This was gritty, up-close, old-school pro wrestling in front of a small, passionate crowd that knows what it takes to even step through those ropes. The second she made her entrance, you could tell she belonged. She wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter or a failed WWE prospect anymore. She was a survivor. She beat the injury, the self-doubt, and the darkness. Competing in a tag team match, she won her debut, showing off a powerful style that got people buzzing. She had finally become a professional wrestler on her own terms. That night proved that the setback that felt like a tragic ending was actually the detour that built her character. She had stepped out of her parents' shadows and into the ring. The real collapse wasn't her body. It was her dream. The silence that followed wasn't from an audience. It was the private silence of her own struggle. And the reaction that truly mattered wasn't a fake one from her father, but a very real one from a wrestling legend who helped her rebuild. Arissa LeBrock's journey proves that legacy isn't just what you inherit, it's what you build. She was born into Hollywood royalty but chose the grind of the squared circle. She faced down a career-ending injury and refused to give up. She has turned herself from Steven Seagal's daughter into Arissa LeBrock, the professional wrestler. And just like Dustin Rhodes predicted, people are starting to talk. So, what do you think is next for Arissa LeBrock? Will her path eventually lead back to WWE or maybe to AEW to work alongside her mentor? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more.